Hello everybody, this is Kirusho here. Before I begin, the reason that this upload is coming out later is because there are a lot of issues going on in my house, and if this video is cut short, I'm meaning to go get someone from somewhere. That is all I'm going to say about that, without essentially going into a lot of detail, because it would probably be confusing. Now, if that is the case, I will try and make this video as long as possible, and cut out their phone number if I get called. Now then, let's begin. When we last left off, Deku had just told Ibarra that they were going to begin training. And he actually would teach her or take her to the gym and actually get her to work out on a few things, along with taking her running and getting her into proper shape for UA. He also wanted to help her train her quirk, but he's thinking the only way she can train her quirk is to find new ways to use it. So he tells her that they'll be figuring it out, but for right now, they're just going to go to the beach and do a jog. For Deku, he considers it a light jog, but for her, it's a workout. So he's basically around helping her with different things, and she's actually helping him study. Because I believe she actually scored pretty high in the entrance exam. It's just that, actually, yeah, for continuity's sake, let's say she actually scored pretty high in the entrance exam, the written exam portion, because the only reason why they actually didn't put her in Class 1A is because Horikoshi said that her hair is so hard to draw. And I don't understand why you would do that to yourself for a character and have them appear as a background character. It's cool, but it's kind of whenever you have to do a explanation on their whatever the powers are or backstories, it starts to get a little harder. Because the way they do that in My Hero Academia is basically everyone at least gets their own episode. Which, that is a lot of animating. Now then, that clears that up in the timeline. So, continuing. Deku and her are Deku's basically walking, because he always had to run through hell. Literally. So this is considered a light walk to him, while Ibarra is actually having trouble. Deku is actually wearing weighted clothing, too, and she's actually not. Which surprises her even more. She's asking Deku exactly how much can he lift? Because she's thinking that all these demons were about as strong as regular people. So he may have killed about a million demons. Deku's saying that not really. Apparently his quirk gets affected by different things about the person. He noticed that the stronger the demon, he gets their strength. The faster the demon, he gets their speed. But he can only get one thing from each demon. Like how he got the wings from a flying demon. And how his quirk evolved to where he can take on their abilities. Basically, he thinks that if he were to, let's say, at a random chance, if he were to kill Endeavor, he might have the ability to use fire. But he's not really sure about that, as that would basically mean his quirk can copy quirks. But he does not ever want to find that out. Now, this is how far he thinks his quirk can go. And hearing that his quirk may be able to copy quirks completely actually somewhat frightens her. Because that basically means if he were to become a villain, he could become top tier in literally 2 days. If not a couple hours. Which is whenever she actually starts praying again. Deku would see her praying, and he's asking her why. She would say that she believes. That's all you need is faith. Deku would just tell her that that's fine, but just don't let that faith follow you into blind ignorance. As he begins picking up his pace. She would be hesitant to follow Deku now, but she still continues. As she kind of understands after a minute, but just taking that at face value is very, very, very insensitive. Now then. They are jogging, and hang on, let me reply to that. Alrighty, I just talked to that person real quick. They commented something, and I just replied to them. Now, let's begin further. Deku is actually walking as she's having trouble. Oh, what the heck? Hang on. Okay, I just gave someone true. True. I'm sorry, I cannot. I'm blinking on your last part of your name. My brain is weird. I just commented and. Well, not commented. I replied to him. He's asking, or he's looking forward to what I do next. I gave him a little hint in the last episode. So, those of you who stuck around my channel, Aldridge City. That is all. Now, back to it. Deku, him and Ibarra are running, and she's still somewhat hesitant to actually listen to Deku. She's thinking that essentially being in hell that long has corrupted a person. In fact, he might actually be a demon now. So she understands that he still has humanity left in him, but he's just probably not well in his head. So she's still accepting his training, but she's doing it reluctantly. Now, they would eventually stop, and they're at a very dirty portion of the beach. Deku tells her that they'll be doing combat training here. She's asking why they don't just clean it, and Deku's saying that, well, his plan was originally for that, but his kind of training might actually destroy the entire area. So, it might as well happen. Now, she's asking what he means, and Deku would just say, usually, throwing around my type of power, it's not really well. He remembers he once split a boulder by accident. But that did not end very well. He ended up just tossing it into the demon's face. The look was priceless. As he basically threw one half of it at one demon, the other half at another one. Now, let's begin. He's telling her that they need to do quirk training and that she just needs to send as many vines at him as possible. Which she would do her regular move she did during the tournament, or not tournament, the sports festival, where she just turns around and does a counterattack, but it's also defensive. Deku would immediately be able to just dodge it by immediately just putting his hands up together and then splitting it into two, telling her that that may not work. An opponent who's very strategic and tactical may actually be able to figure that out. Don't just rely on that. Now, after this, Deku's asking her if she can do anything more. As he actually says they'll be doing combat training. She's asking what he means, and he's saying that for the entrance exam, he believes there's going to be a physical portion, where they may have to fight some robots or fight some pro heroes. If they're fighting robots, then that's good, you can go all out. But if you're fighting heroes, you will need to hold back. Even then, there are still heroes like Eraserhead, who can cancel quirks. Haven't you? I think he's going to be a teacher at UA. But we're not very sure. People forget that he exists. Along with Komari Woods, Mount Lady, Best Genist, and the number 4 hero. I don't remember what the number 4 hero's name is. I believe it's Hawk, I'm sure. Now, after this, she's actually punching and actually firing punches with Deku, and All Might would eventually come by. He's coming by because he's thinking that finally he's figured out who his successor is, and they should be coming to clean the beach. As he thinks that he just needs to offer it to Mirio. But this is whenever he would look down at the beach and see that there's Deku and Ibarra training. All Might would actually watch as Deku is teaching her new ways to use her quirk, actually showing her some theories he has on it, and he is even actually fighting on par with her, but just using strength, no speed. And eventually he would switch to speed, but that's a bit different. She would go to throw a punch, and Deku would just immediately just rapidly move, which she's actually getting a little mad at, as Deku tells her to try harder and harder to hit him. She just keeps trying, and that's not working. Now then, Bakugo would come by, and he's actually with All Might. They were training at a gym, but All Might finally got clearance from the city to actually clean the beach. Basically, he was just watching these two, and this is whenever Bakugo, he would ask All Might what he's looking at, as he would look down and see that there's two people training on the beach. One of them is clearly Ibarra, and the other one, he can't quite really tell. It's too early in the morning and they're too far away. As he walks over, he sees Deku, which he still can't believe. He's asking him what he's doing here, and he would just say that he's here to train with All Might. Deku would look, and Deku would see All Might, as he actually would put his hand up, greeting him. All Might would shake his hand, and Deku would immediately begin squeezing, as he wants to see All Might's power. All Might would begin squeezing back, as these two are somewhat doing that. Now, Deku already has a pretty good grasp on how strong All Might is, but Deku would immediately reach the point where he can't squeeze All Might's hand any harder, and All Might would immediately just let go, saying that that's a pretty strong grip he's got there, and he might be a good hero. Deku would just say, yeah, he is going to be the best hero he can, to make sure what happened to him doesn't happen to anyone else. What happened to him doesn't happen to anyone else. Now, after this, All Might would get the explanation, be in shock, be confused, and actually appreciate that Deku is basically an entire versatile opponent, as he tells Bakugo to train with Deku. Bakugo would do so, and he would actually blast Deku with an explosion at point-blank range, as Bakugo has already heard about Deku's power-up. As soon as he blasts an explosion, he would just see Deku reach his hand through the smoke, grabbing Bakugo's face, actually throwing him a couple feet. As soon as that happened, Bakugo would look back and he'd see Deku. He sees Deku immediately turn into, well, let's say a hellhound. As Deku immediately did this, he starts running around and actually messing with Bakugo, actually using his speed and durability to actually power through Bakugo's attacks. As he would eventually pin Bakugo to the ground with a paw, telling Bakugo to yield. Bakugo would do so as he's hesitant to even try and object, because all he sees is the snout, the teeth, and the glowing eyes of a giant hound in his face, which he would probably piss himself, because I believe hellhounds are bigger than an alpha wolf. If you guys are confused, basically almost the size of a bear. From many stories I remember reading as a child. It's fucking beautiful. Anyways, now, Ibarra would see Deku do this, and she's thinking that essentially he may have been the werewolf, which puts her off a bit more, as she would leave and go home. Deku would see this, and he's actually okay with her leaving, because it basically means, well, she's been working a bit too hard lately, so she may need the rest. Now, as she's walking home, Deku would immediately just look around as he begins smelling something. He smells another demon. He smells the hatred, the anger, and the sin that this demon's producing. Now, he doesn't just smell any regular sin. He smells murder. He smells blood. As he begins fighting, well, not begins fighting, but let us cut to Ibarra. Ibarra is walking home, and she's trying to figure out a way to essentially report this to the authorities. All Might would have actually taken notice of this, as he would have seen Deku immediately turn, and he actually is smelling the air. He's actually using his Hellhound senses to try and figure this out, as he immediately just shifts back for a minute, telling All Might to follow him as he would make his wings and fly up into the air. As soon as this happens, Deku would watch as he starts flying around. He's trying to figure this out more and more as he keeps smelling around. Now, he would eventually find the demon. But this is no ordinary demon. This is basically a hellhound that has been tampered with. If you guys want to know what I mean by tampered with, if you were a scientist and you had the chance to study the gene of something that has never existed on your planet before, what's the first thing people would think to do with it? Weaponize it, turn it into a soldier. Basically, a hellhound werewolf that lost its mind and is leading a small group of demons. Ibarra would be captured, and she did actually have a syringe stuck in her neck, as the demons will withdraw blood and actually knock her out, trying to abduct her. Now, Deku, he would immediately hear Ibarra yell right before they stuck the needle into her neck. As soon as he did this, Deku would actually begin chasing down the demons. Now, as soon as he sees them, they would have actually held up a knife, holding it up to Ibarra's face. They would tell him that he needs to leave or die, or leave or they'll kill her, as Deku would actually back off. He immediately just starts flying overhead, and he just flies away, as it appears as All Might is actually following Deku. All Might would eventually catch up, as Deku tells All Might not to go any closer. They have Ibarra, and they're going to kill her. Fucking demons. They're tricky bullshit. All Might just immediately hears Deku say demons, so they're from hell. How did you deal with demons in hell, Midoriya? I brutally butchered and slaughtered them till they all screamed my name, and called me a fairy tale. Okay, new plan. I'm sorry, I had to do that. It was too good of an opportunity to pass up. Now, All Might's thinking that there's got to be a way to take them in peacefully. As he's thinking this, he's mid-jump, as he immediately just shrinks down and actually starting to fall from the sky. Deku would see this man falling, and he would actually fly down, picking him up, actually asking him who he is. He smells like All Might, but he doesn't look like All Might. So what's up with that? Well, you see, no, you're definitely All Might. You smell just like him, but you smell, how do I put this? Inferior. Well, okay, fuck you too, kid. No, it's just, your quirk is a transformation quirk like mine, right? No. Yes, now it is, but Bakugo is not having that. What? Ah, shit. As Deku would get the explanation, and this is whenever All Might would explain to Deku that his quirk can be passed down. He's giving it on to Bakugo. Bakugo will be a good hero, but from what he's seen, Deku might be a better one. But his quirk, from what he's heard Bakugo state or say, is that you have to kill to get power. So you've been killing demons, correct? That is essentially what this entire, I was going to say Yakuza, but that's a different thing. I don't know the Japanese word for demon. I believe it's... No, I don't think that's right. I'd have to Google that in between episodes. Anyways, Deku would tell All Might that essentially, yes, they need to chase down the demons, and he might know where they are. As All Might would tell Bakugo that he needs to continue training, he needs to do some hero work. This would confuse Bakugo, as Deku would immediately begin going with All Might. Deku's actually holding All Might's arm as they are flying overhead, actually following the truck. As they would eventually get back to the hideout, the demons have essentially begin... No, I don't want to do that, or say that. That would be very fucked up. Oh, that's a good joke. Sorry guys, I'm looking at my screen. Anyways, the demons have essentially begun drawing blood from Ibarra, as they need the blood of a saint. And she's wearing a crown of thorns, so they think that she's exactly what they need. Now, as soon as that happens, Deku and All Might would immediately bust through the wall, as All Might's action is buff form, actually pushing himself a little bit. Deku would immediately just show his face, and he immediately has the glowing eyes. All the demons have heard of Deku, as people have talked about the death of an ancient titan, which has kind of freaked them out, as no ancient one has ever died except for the one Deku killed, which would probably be very newsworthy in Hell. Hey, an ancient demon that has lived since the day one of this place's creation has finally died. How'd it die? This human that people believe is alive and it's a fairy tale? Oh. Sorry about that, guys. There's probably a lot of those jokes in here. I'm just trying to get through this as fast as I can. Yeah, Deku, he would tell them to hand over Ibarra and he might let them live, as they would actually hand her over. Deku would say good, and All Might would say that that's very fine. They ended the day with, and as All Might says that, Deku's already been killing the demons. Enter, so I started blasting joke here. Now, after this, All Might's actually asking Deku why he did that, and Deku would immediately just throw a demon into a wall, actually asking him who their leader is. This demon would say that their leader is essentially a higher class demon. He calls himself a cyber demon. Doesn't make any sense because they don't, as Deku says, where is his base located? They would just say that they don't know. All of them came through the portal, and Deku would immediately say, portal. You mean the one from last year? Last year? There ain't been no portal like that. We've been using the circles. So you're using summoning circles. Good information. As Deku just crushes his windpipe, and we would see one thing Ibarra has heard about. The werewolf would step out from the shadows, actually clapping his hands. Now this was a man with a wolf quirk, but they wanted to see what would happen if you splice in DNA of basically a genetic family member with this man's quirk. As you would see, this man step out, he's covered in burns, fire, and fur. The entire room begins reeking of just burnt fur. She would see this man, and so does Deku. Deku immediately looks at him, asking him if he's that thing from the papers. This man would say yes, and he's actually come up with a good name for himself. The Howling Butcher. Which Deku would call cheesy, or just plain stupid. Now, after that, Deku immediately begins charging at this man as this man would charge at Deku. As soon as Deku reaches in, he actually pulls his arm back, because he is not covered in regular fire. He's covered in the one thing no person can survive touching. Hellfire. Yes, his durability is high, but that's the things on Earth. So this is now an actually good threat for Deku. As Deku immediately begins, he just tries pulling out a knife from his boot and begins trying to stab into the demon. He stabs into its chest, actually pulling his knife out as it's glowing red. Deku sees that and he starts stabbing into this thing again, but this thing immediately grabs Deku's wrist, actually somewhat trying to break his arm or his hand, and Deku's actually trying to grab his wrist, fighting with him. These two are having a struggle, and All Might's trying to watch this as he tries to jump in. Deku would immediately tell All Might that he needs to kill this guy, or he needs to throw a punch as hard as he can. All Might would be hesitant, and he would say no, they're not going to do that. And Deku would immediately tell him that this man has killed too many people, and that he is a threat to everyone. Locking him up won't do it. As Deku would tell him that these aren't humans. He isn't human anymore. In fact, he's a demon now. He is lost to nothing but rage and sin. So, you have to give him mercy, All Might. As this is going on, Ibarra is actually realizing that Deku is not this murderer or killer. He's actually something worse. He's a saint. Now, as this is going on, Ibarra actually tries wrapping him up with vines, but the hellfire immediately burns through them. As soon as this happens, Ibarra actually tries wrapping them around his ankles or his legs, and she's only able to get parts of him that are not covered in fire. As this happens, Deku actually begins restraining this man, and he actually begins just grabbing one of his arms, actually starting to pull it. As the man begins screaming, Deku actually pulls off his arm and just stabs the bone into his head, killing him. Glory kill! As this man's body falls to the ground, actually dead. Deku is actually exhausted as he falls over, and he actually reveals the burns on his arms, along with some actual scratches from the man's claws. Deku would say that he's glad that's over, but they need to explain this now. As Deku would turn around, telling All Might, long story short, demons are trying to invade Earth. In fact, he has something he needs to tell All Might. Whenever he was in Hell, he gathered as much information as possible and also found a couple facilities. One of them was actually I think it was a weapons forging factory or something, but they also had information. They were trying to create new weapons and actually test them out in Hell, and they had this initiative. I don't exactly know what it was called, but they are essentially trying to create weapons to save their Earth. All Might is confused as Deku would explain. Essentially, their Earth had no protectors, no quirks, and they fell to demons. This is basically what would happen if Earth did not have Doomslayer. But Doomslayer wasn't in this perversion of reality. Yes, he exists, but not in this reality. Deku's Doomslayer. Now, Deku would explain that essentially, demons are going to try and take over this Earth now, because they are either bored or just have nothing to do in Hell. They essentially want to cause more chaos and destruction. So, they need to stop it from happening. They need to at least save their Earth and stop the demons from killing everyone. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and in the next episode, I will be covering more information about this, along with the rest of the 2 months left, and the entrance exam. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and have an amazing day. I will catch you guys later.